Welcome to this conversation with Wendy Stuart Kaplan. What a fascinating woman. She's a fit model. She's a documentary maker. She's so passionate and funny. I'm sure you're going to love this conversation.
You're in an island in the middle of the Baltic.
Yeah.
I totally love this. I mean, you realize if it weren't for the pandemic, this would not be happening. And that's been really the only good thing I can say. It has brought the world so close together.
Are you familiar with David Hoffman?
Tell me, maybe if you tell me.
He's one of the original filmmakers. Like he was taking 16 millimeter cameras in the 60s, making documentary films. You should check out his YouTube channel. It's incredible, the history that he's captured.
Wow.
But I
had David Hoffman, the filmmaker from the 60s. Yeah. My husband, who's sitting here, was a photographer from the 60s all the way up to now. So he's a well-known name too. He's heard of David Hoffman.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I was actually featured on his channel. I left some really from the heart comments about how much his work was meaning to me, you know.
Oh, that's great.
Talking about the civil rights movement and these intense things that I didn't learn enough in school. Watching his channels, like the genuine history from people who were there. And he said, do you want to be on my channel and have a conversation? And it was just like,
But how perfect is that? You know, you had reached out to him and then look what happened. Did you grow up in Sweden?
No, I grew up in Utah.
You're from Utah. Wow.
Yeah.
And now you're in an island. Incredible.
I met my Swedish husband in Germany. We were traveling with the theater company.
Oh, what a great story. My God. I need to interview you on one of my shows. Oh, God.
I wore this dress for you.
That is so perfect.
It's from Ghana.
And it's African, and it looks like, where is it from?
Ghana.
From Ghana?
Ghana,
yeah. I was going to say, it looks like it's called, I think, a dire cloth. Okay. And a dire cloth usually has that kind of pattern. Although if anyone watches this, they may correct me, and I stand to be corrected, no problem. But I love any kind of prints from Africa. Not that these are, but you can see I love different colors. I love anything that reflects the culture, right, of where you are.
Yeah, so you've got a pretty huge passion for showing the cultures of Africa, huh?
Yes, I totally, I don't know if you got to read my book.
Not yet, but it's on my list.
Yeah, but as with me, I have a whole stack I'm looking at over here that's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, Kate. But I love Africa. From the time I was a small child, I remember telling my mother I would become a model when I grew up, and I would go to Africa, and they just thought I was crazy. I was, living in the Bronx, and that was such an odd thing for a kid to say. Kids want to be like a doctor or a lawyer or a nurse or a teacher. I was going to be a model, and I was going to go to Africa, and I did both those things. I didn't get to go to Africa because I was a model. That was the original plan. And X amount of years later, my husband and I started making films in remote places that we thought could help the people or the wildlife there by working with non-for-profits and basically producing these films ourselves and donating it so that they could use it for fundraisers or on their websites. And I'm going to backtrack a little. When I was in my early 20s, well, I think it was 20, my university, I was majoring in anthropology and theater. How's that for two really different things? Although, Kate, when you think about it, they're not so different, Anthropology is the study of people, and theater, you're interacting with people or creating a person. Mm-hmm. So I had this study abroad program for anthropology and archaeology students, and it was going to be in Israel. And my boyfriend at the time said to me, you can try applying for that, but you're never going to get in. He said, because it was so selective. It was, the kids that were doing all the lab work and stuff. I was not that person. I was a good student. I wasn't amazing. I didn't care about being amazing. So B plus was fine for this girl. I only became an A person as I got older. So I I was going to apply to this program in Israel and Egypt, and he was a filmmaker, and he was in our film studies department. He said, "Why don't we apply to a program in Nigeria and through the Black Studies department?" So I thought, oh, gee, I said, we're not in the Black Studies department. Hello, is this beautiful Eleanor here? Hi, Eleanor. We're not in the Black Studies department. So he said, let's go for it. I said, we're never going to get picked. Well, I was out on an archaeology dig in upstate New York, and all of a sudden I get a call that I have to go get my visa and get my passport together because I'm going to Nigeria. And that was my first time. I know, but this was like, who knew, right, Kate? It was a dream, and it was happening. So I end up in Nigeria in a village called Ife. And it was really funny. I had to learn the language. I took classes in Yoruba, which was the local language of the Yoruba people. And the coolest thing was, in the village I was in, they had never seen, or if they did see, it was few and far between. There were some Brits there, but mostly not. It was, all the people that lived there. They would see me and they would go, Odabo, Oibo. Odabo means hello. I thought Oibo meant hello, foreign person. I only came to find out like weeks later from a person who ended up becoming my Nigerian best friend, who I love to death. His name is Jide Abegunde. Jide said to me, Wendy, do you know what Oibo means? I'm like, yeah, it means hello, foreign person. He's like, Wendy, it's the white skin on an orange when you peel it. So that's what they were saying to me. Hello, white skin on an orange person. So Eleanor, is that a funny story or what? It's pretty funny, right? Yeah. So I saw and heard things in Nigeria that were unbelievable to me. I went there to do a paper on Shango, the god of thunder, part of traditional religion there. They have traditional beliefs in religion, and it's very different than what we believe in Western religions. It's like night and day. And I saw many things that you could not explain. I saw people healed from things through local doctors. And it was the first time my mind opened up to the power of the mind over the body, because these were things, I saw things that couldn't scientifically be explained. And I am very much a science person. I mean, Lord knows with this pandemic, trying to tell people that didn't believe in this and trying to get them, especially in the United States, to comprehend science. I'm very much a science person, but I have had to leave that door open for more traditional methods because I saw things that could not be explained there. So I get back from Nigeria and, I get into modeling, and I didn't have, if you read my book, She's the Last Model Standing, I didn't have the glamorous career. I'm still modeling. My career is not glamorous. I've just always been a working model. And I never got to travel to those exotic places that you see in Vogue magazine with the supermodels, where Naomi Campbell has been and Linda Evangelista. No, I was never that girl, but I dreamed of getting back to Africa. And, my story to you, Kate, is about going after your dreams because you can make them happen. And I kept thinking about Africa the whole time. And my husband and I, he's a photographer, and I started auditioning for television shows, and I went up for a show on Animal Planet, and I actually never got as far as the audition. I was submitted for it, and I had all the right criteria, and I didn't even get an audition. And when I saw the girl who booked it, right, and you have a theater background, I know you're connecting with what I'm saying. The girl who booked it, I had at that point been to the Amazon, had been in very remote places. We had been making like little films of me interviewing local people, the Red Zang in Vietnam. I had been doing this, and I thought that this show, Miss Adventure, would be a perfect platform for me to get what I'm doing out on. And what ended up happening is the job went to someone else. And I said to my husband, that's it. I'm a performer, I'm an on-camera host, you're a photographer, and you can do camera work. I'm not doing this through anybody else. All right. We're going to go after and do what we want to do. So the first place we went to was Ethiopia. We decided to make a film about the tribal people there. There were 3 tribes, the Caro People, the Mercy People, and the Hammer People. And I wanted to make a film showing their fashion, right? Because I was coming from a fashion background, the fashion and beauty of traditional people, of indigenous people all over the world, right? So spectacular, what they call fashion. And we end up going there, and I called the film Fragile Beauty. It ended up getting its name because I was going to do some superficial film about fashion and jewelry and all of that. And that's not what the film ended up really being about. I get there and was really not prepared for what I found. Yes, the people were beautiful, but for instance, the Hammer People invited us to a ceremony that they were doing called the jumping of the bulls. And as foreigners, we had a translator who was a local person that dealt with the tribal people. He got us in, and we had our film crew was myself, my husband, and our translator. That was it. Occasionally, if there was someone local in the village that looked like they could handle cameras, what people don't realize, people are smart all over the world. Their culture may be different than you. All right. But, you can hand someone a camera in a very foreign place that gets it. I could hand someone a camera here in New York, an NYU student that's studying film, and I can tell right off the bat, they don't get it. So we work small, and we never wanted to leave like a footprint. So we go to shoot this film. We're at the jumping of the bull ceremony, which is a coming of age ceremony for a boy turning 13. He has to jump over the back of 8 bulls. And if he doesn't succeed, so he jumps up on the first bull, and the bulls are all together, and then kind of tiptoes across the back of them. And he's naked when he does it, but he has to keep his balance and he can't fall. And if he does a good job, he gets a house, he gets a wife, and he gets an AK-47. Because and I'm going to explain about that. There is a reason for that, because the people there are armed. And when you find out why, with good reason. Everyone I got used to AK-47s. I left my little world here in New York, and I just jumped into like another reality. So the boy does it and everything. And of course he succeeds, and then there's everyone's dancing and all of that. But before we even have this ceremony, the beginning of the ceremony is the men and women dance in a circle. And the men, this is true story, Kate, beat the women with branches until their backs are bleeding. Okay. Not only, I know, I'm looking at your face. This is not only part of the ceremony. The women are jumping up and down laughing. There is no right. For you or I, we would experience pain. And a lot of them have, scars, because this is part of their culture. There is absolutely no way. And I've even talked with scientists about this who have said it's definitely something connected in the way things are processed in the brain culturally. And their backs are bleeding. I didn't show it in the film because I wanted to make a film that people would react to positively, not react to just your reaction would have been everyone else's reaction. And I wanted people to understand how beautiful this culture is and how they are worth saving. So they're dancing, their backs are bleeding, and they're having a grand old time. My husband and I are sitting there. Whoa, we couldn't believe it. We have the jumping of the bulls, and we all sit around and share. They have a particular wine that they make, and everybody's perfectly happy. And life goes on for the Hammer People. The next village we go to shoot, the Caro People, that was the one that was also another eye opener. They heavy body paint themselves with beautiful geometric paints made out of the clay. They put the clay in their hair, which gives it an orange sheen. So do the Hammer people. They mix it with clay and butter. And it's absolute, everyone's got this beautiful shiny orange hair. So we go to this village, and I wanted to show the geometric patterns they paint on themselves. I mean, this is how they look every day, Kate. You and I are sitting here in our kind of semi-African garb, right? But their bodies are painted like this every day to take care of their cattle. Again, part of their tradition, you know? So we start taking pictures of them, still photographs at that point. And my translator comes over and he says, "Do you have malaria pills?" And I said, "Sure." And I go to get them. And then he goes, no, this is not a good idea. He said, "Those are counted out for you. There is a man here. His daughter is very sick. She has malaria and she's dying. This is a little child your kid's age. This is what is going on in the world." Like, people like you and me think, well, how could this be? You know, malaria has been eradicated in many places, but there's still a lot that it hasn't. So he brings me to where the man and the little girl are. And I said to the guide, "Listen," I said, "is there a clinic near here?" And he said, "Yeah, 2 miles away." I said, "Well, why don't we just go to the clinic?" He said, "Well, the man can't pay for the medicine because he only has a cow and they won't take a cow at the clinic." I mean, can you wrap your head around this, Kate? It's like unbelievable. And it was that. And then also the man was embarrassed. Okay, because at that point I said, "Well, tell him we have a Jeep. He can get in the car with us, with the little girl, and we'll drive to the clinic." We're talking about life and death and a 2-mile variation. And the guide says to me, "Well, now, you know, you're foreigners. He feels not right taking, you know, money from you." I said, okay, and I had to think the way they think, right? And I think, tell him it's a gift. I want to give him a gift for letting us be with him in his village. Ask him if that's okay if I give him a gift, and the gift will be the medicine. And the translator did that, and that was okay. So we put the man and his daughter in the Jeep with us, and we drive to the clinic. And the nurse comes out, and now I understand why the man felt this way. I mean, the nurse came out, and immediately, she was a local woman. She talked to me. She wouldn't even look at him or the sick little child. And she said, "Well, you have to pay for the medicine." I said, "Yes, I'm paying for the medicine. No problem." I said, "Here's $20. And how much is it though? You tell me how much." She said, it's $10. I said, "Well, good. You have money left over to treat somebody else. Go ahead. You take it." Can you imagine, Kate, $10 to save a kid's life? So we got the medicine. And I think one of the most magical moments in that film, and we show it in Fragile Beauty, he grabs my hand, his hand against mine, he grabs it and he shakes it. And then he hugged me. And it was, I know, it even telling the story now brings tears to my eyes, because this is going on in our world right now. And actually, this compared to what is going on with the pandemic, I mean, I don't even know where to start. I was dealing with malaria and thinking, you know, what can I do to make a difference in the world so that people understand that, you know, Ethiopia is developing very fast. Kids are still dying of malaria. So let's get back to why do the tribal people have guns there? Because what's happening is Ethiopia is developing very fast. The Italians and the Chinese are putting in, there's a dam there that's going to run into the Nile. The people are going to make a lot of money because they're going to be able to now sail into the Nile to export things. The question is, what happens to all the tribal people? There's 22 different tribes in the area I was in. This dam is running right through their ancestral lands. Okay, it's running right through where they farmed, where they lived, and they're relocating them. 22 different tribes. The Hammer people are very different from the Caro people, who are very different from the Mercy people. Those are the people with the clay plates in their mouth. You can't take and put 3 vastly different groups of indigenous people together and, you know, hope for the best. And that's exactly what has happened. So the people are not only mistrustful of the other tribes, they're mistrustful of the governments. So that's how you get your AK-47s. No one pointed an AK-47 at myself or my husband. Like, people said to me, were you afraid while you were there? No, I wasn't afraid even a little bit, because they had no reason to point a gun at me. And they wouldn't, and the guns were everywhere. I remember with the Caro People, the day we wanted to do all the still shots of their body paint. Oh, and the other thing I want to add, we paid everybody. We made an agreement with the chief that everybody would get paid $10 if we spent a little time with you, $20 if we spent more time. This was amazing because, again, they do business with cattle. Now they had some money to go to the market with. So they were just terrific. They made us feel great. So at the end of the shoot with the Caro People, there was a place that we could walk to where we could have Coca-Cola and beer. So we bought Coca-Cola and beer for everybody. And I have one of the, people in the tribe, he wanted to take pictures with me. So I have a picture of the two of us drinking Coca-Cola and the AK-47 kind of balanced on the side of my head into my body. And again, people said, weren't you afraid? It's funny. I never felt for one reason anything was going to happen to me. And that is how we started, making films in Africa. That was the first one. Then we joined the Explorers Club, which is, there's 3,400 members in the world. And that is a club for international filmmakers, scientists, some of the most dynamic people that are studying cultures, studying fossils, digging up dinosaurs. I mean, it runs the gamut. And I always say to people, I am solo man on the total pole there. I've met people that are experts on climate change that you have read about, that world-renowned people getting awards all over. We became members of that club. And that was, of course, the catalyst for me to do the second film. I was at a lecture. The club in New York, until pandemic, gives these wonderful lectures. And I had signed up for two different ones with women that were in Cameroon rescuing gorillas and chimpanzees. And I thought, oh, I have to meet these women. One was a British woman from Ape Action Africa, Rachel Hogan, who has a primate rescue center, over 325, if not more, primates, and largely composed of chimps and gorillas. And then the other woman is Dr. Sherry Speed from Oregon. Rachel's from the UK, Sherry Speed's from Oregon. She has Sanaga Young Chimpanzee Center, and both places are in Cameroon. She has 64, at the time, 64 chimpanzees. The number, I'm sure, goes up and down. Why do we have these rescue centers? Because the gorillas and chimpanzees and other primates are being poached. They're being sold for bushmeat, which is a delicacy in the Middle East and in China. And I have heard there are places in New York that you don't know about that are very high end serving this illegal black market bushmeat. Awful, right? Then there's yeah, go ahead.
Okay, but I was gonna say it's like with the women and their backs being beaten, and we don't get that. I think it's probably the same way with a lot of these poaching things. It's so disgusting to us, but it's like a person's life or an animal's life. These are really, really tough decisions.
Thank you. And you're getting, so I like to talk about this. So yes, of course it's terrible, but why are people poaching, right? Gorillas, chimpanzees, rhino, elephant, because people that don't have anything trying to feed their families. All right. You have a family. I have a family. They prey on the desperation of these people. A lot of the poaching organizations, not so much in Cameroon, but in other parts of Africa, they're run like drug cartels. There's a big guy at the top making a lot of money for that rhino horn or elephant tusk. Why is rhino horn or elephant tusk something that is so valuable? In countries like China, they believe that, it can increase a person's virility. All right. It can do they believe all kinds of things. One of the good things that has happened from all of this, there have been a number of Chinese sports figures and celebrities that have gotten out there and said, hey, folks, we're not going to do this. This is not okay to do. All right. First of all, we don't believe that it works. Second of all, we have to stop doing it, or there's not going to be gorillas or chimpanzees or any of this kind of wildlife for your beautiful children, Kate, to grow up and see. Or, and my daughter's older already, but for her kids to see. So we got to do something now. So these two women started these rescue centers, and they're called rescue centers because these animals will never be released. The reason they can't be released is in Cameroon, there is nowhere to release them to. If they let them back into the forests, they'll be killed. So how do they keep them? Well, this is what's so brilliant. And I love talking about this. Like I'll start with the chimp families. It's the Nagyang Chimpanzee Rescue. There were 6 different families kept in 4-acre enclosures. Yes, it's not like being released in the rainforest, but in 4 acres, you can do your thing. You can build your tree nest. You can hang out with everybody. You can hide. It's big enough for them to live their best chimpanzee life. And the brilliance of a situation like this, the food is supplemented. How is it supplemented? Yes, there's things in their 4-acre enclosures with beautiful trees and things. They can eat things in there, but the local villagers who are being taught, no, don't kill them. We will buy, you're going to love this, we'll buy your vegetables and fruits from you. So we went on what was a fruit and vegetable run to a couple of nearby villages. And here's what was so brilliant. They lined up with their wares. And the person running the program from the rescue center, she had a little list of who each person was and wrote down how many fruits or vegetables she bought from each one so that everyone was getting their fair share. Also, the rescue centers, through private donations, build schools for these villagers. They build schools so they can get the message of education out there. So yes, you totally got that. You've got to be able to supply this to people. You can't just say, hey, you can't be killing the gorillas and chimpanzees. You have to supply alternate methods for people to survive.
It's like you got to go to the root of the problem, not just be like, oh, these evil poachers, or like these white savior responses of let's make people dependent on us. No, give them education.
Right. Thank you. And and you brought up the white savior thing, which is a very touchy topic. The beauty of both rescue centers they are just working with the local people. They're not coming in and saying, you can't do this or you can't do that. Right. They're the people that are in charge. All right, are local people. And there was one manager I interviewed at the chimpanzee rescue. He's in my film, and he talks about, he wants his grandchildren to be able to come and see the chimpanzees and the other primates. He totally gets it. And the beauty of him is he's going around to other villages because this is what it's going to take. Not me, not you, bringing the people that are there already to say, hey, we've worked out something. We have a good plan for this. But I got to tell you, it's very challenging. And a lot of what I was talking about regarding my films and the kind of films I make to address these problems, it's now, I want to say, God, we've got bigger fish to fry now. Our whole world is different. What's going on in these places now for these people? I mean, we were working with a different business model before. Oh, we'll have schools, we'll buy your local fruits and vegetables. People will start to reduce the poaching. But in places like Africa, it's not, I heard the pandemic is not raging as bad as it is here. They attribute it to lots of things, that they've dealt with so many diseases there over the years. People are very good about tracing, and villages are more manageable. They're smaller than all of us with these huge cities. I don't know, but now there's much bigger fish to fry. And I don't know where the pandemic is going to leave these rescue centers. I don't know what's going to happen.
Ooh,
we're all in it. We're all wearing a different pair of shoes. And I don't, honestly, Kate, I don't know when I'm going to get back to Africa. There's so many stories to be told, and of course I want to tell them eventually, but I don't know how it was where you are in Sweden, but for us, everything's been turned inside out and upside down. And New York City, people have done an incredible job of following the right protocols here. We were hit really badly. My whole family had COVID, and so did most of my friends. Right. So many people react that way because I'm sure where you were, it was, if not very, very few cases, I would think, right?
There have been different waves on this island, but it's never gotten too bad over here, but it was pretty bad on the mainland. I was kind of happy to be isolated.
Of course. Yeah. Sweden. Yes. We got news there on the mainland. It was raging.
Because we never had any lockdowns or mask mandates. It was all personal responsibility.
Right. In on the mainland.
All over.
That's what. All over. Wow.
All over Sweden,
wow.
Gotland, Öland, the whole shebang that is Sweden.
Yeah. Wow. That's interesting. We had lockdowns here. Unfortunately, it should have all been called way earlier. They shut down New York March 12th, and March 13th, I realized every single thing I do, I'm an actress, a model, I make films, I do emceeing, I'm a comedian. All the ways that I earn income had come to a crashing halt. Everything just stopped. There was no studios to go to, no stages to perform on, no parties to promote because it stopped. And I said to my husband, you know what, this is unacceptable. We have to come up with something. And it was the day after the New York shutdown, and we were in my kitchen. I said, I have a great idea. I'll do a cooking show. He said, you don't cook. You've never cooked. And I said, exactly. This is perfect. And this is true, Kate. I never cooked. You live in New York City, you order in day and night. We have like 12 hours a day you can get food delivered here, sometimes even longer. So I came up with the idea I would call the show Pandemic Cooking with Wendy. And I know people that really do cook that were actors, and they're like, that's a terrible name for a show. I'm like, not if it's a comedy show. I mean, come on. And then other people said, who's going to watch a show called Pandemic Cooking with Wendy? And I was like, you wait and see. So the beauty of Pandemic Cooking with Wendy is we have 112 episodes since over a year ago, since over March a year ago. And it lets me use my costumes, my wigs, my characters, everything I did as a performer was now taped in my kitchen for this show. And we actually cook food on this show. That's right. I look for fun, easy recipes.
So it's like a cooking / variety show?
The only variety is me. Well, sometimes there's other variety because like last summer when our numbers were down, I went on location to like New Jersey and in Pennsylvania and with friends, and we did cooking. We had shields on so you could see our faces, because what I realized, nobody wants to watch a show where people have masks on, but we had the shields and we distanced. And that worked out really great. So those were my location shows. And then I brought a couple of people into my kitchen. And then now that everyone's vaccinated, I just got done shooting. This is going to blow your mind. Pandemic Cooking with Wendy, episode 112. That'll probably be episode 112 through 116 with Hannah Lindqvist Brinson. Okay, she is Swedish, and we make Swedish meatballs, and she is a incredible choreographer from Sweden who happens to be a friend of mine, and I brought her on the show. So I have guests on. Otherwise, I'm by myself, and a lot of the times I'll be a character. I did a segment where I was somebody from India, and we made Indian food. And of course, I have the wig. I have the traditional Indian outfit because I had been to India. I've got closets full of different outfits for different characters. I'm a flight attendant on one of them, on Pandemic Airlines, because you can't go anywhere except in your mind. But I reenacted a whole flight, where people were getting high in the bathroom or not sitting in their seats, just all the kinds of things that could go wrong on a flight. And the food I served was in, those little plastic trays. I cooked like a chicken dish with mac and cheese, and then it had that aluminum foil over it when it was served. But it was also table food. I mean, you could eat it on the table. So I tried to keep the show as varied and as interesting as possible. And it is on my YouTube channel, Wendy Stuart TV, Pandemic Cooking with Wendy. So I got that rolling. And from that, I started appearing, like you asked about variety shows. Friends of mine who were actors and comedians started putting together shows on Zoom. So I was asked to do improv and sketches and characters, or read from my book, She's the Last Model Standing, on their shows. So like a couple of nights a week, it was amazing. I had all of a sudden started to replace the life I used to have with this new life. And it didn't really replace it, because there's nothing, and you as a theater person know this, there's nothing like live theater and having a live audience. But you know what? I was so blessed to be able to do this. And probably around December of last year, they started opening up outdoor dining in New York through the summer. Well, then the winter was coming and we still couldn't go indoors. And a lot of the restaurants decided to keep the outdoor dining by putting these heat lamps in overhead. Let me tell you, when it's 20 degrees, you still freeze. But that we were sitting in one of our outdoor dining places, Pangea, which is a place that hosts so many actors and performers and cabaret artists from all over. Debbie Harry's performed there, and a host of people. And they support the arts. And they were having a hard time. They were struggling like most restaurants here. I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, you know what? I said, I would love to do an entertainment show from here. And I would call it If These Walls Could Talk, because so many different artists have come through that restaurant and performed, had parties there, and have been patrons there. And myself and my host, Tim Moss, have different people in the music world come on, or writers or entertainers every week. And Tim and I are together there, and we bring in our guests virtually. And it's allowed us to have lots of people from California. And I thank Eileen Shapiro. She has been the one that she's got me incredible guests. Leland Sklar, the world-renowned Leland Sklar, Kenny Aronoff, the drummer, Scott Page from Pink Floyd. There's a whole list I can go down, all wonderful people. And again, like all of us, their worlds came to a crashing halt. So, they're live streaming. They've started YouTube channels. Leland Sklar is like kicking butt on YouTube. He's got a gazillion followers, and this is something he would have never done before. So what you learn from a lot of your guests, right? We're all resourceful. And then this summer, I actually created another show. It's called Triversity Talk. I help run an LGBTQ in Milford, Pennsylvania, where I have a second home. And we've been around for 8 years. And somebody suggested, why don't we have a show? So myself and the executive director, Stephen Bloomer Teague, I said, we could do a show and have on like just all stars from all over the world, or New York or California, right? Again, we can do whatever we want. And we can deal with current issues, people transitioning, doctors that are doing transition surgery, the challenge of two dads that adopt foster kids that they want to adopt full time. What's involved with that, to be two dads? All the challenges that anyone might face, or political issues, policies that were being put through under our last administration that were so anti-LGBTQ plus, so bad. We can talk about those. Last night I interviewed an amazing woman, Shireen Gruberg, out of Washington, who's like a policymaker. She works with an organization that has to gather people together to basically vote on policies. I learned that we, the people, actually have a voice, that there are places that you can go and give your voice when some politician puts out a horrible idea and you don't agree. So again, I've learned, they've learned. The show is really wonderful. It's called Triversity Talk. We're changing the name to Diversity Talk because we want to be a bigger platform out there. We want people to know in the world, you can come be a guest on our show. We want to deal with LGBTQ problems all over the world, or positives. I had on Flavio Alves, brilliant film director, award-winning film, A Garden Left Behind. I know it won awards in Sweden. It's been all over the world. The film, most of the cast is trans, and it's about a trans woman and what happens to her. Comes from an immigrant family, families from Mexico, and they end up in a big city. These are stories, Kate, that need to be told. So yeah, I'm a storyteller. I want to get out there and tell these stories.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's always wonderful to hear about the support going out to LGBTQ people. But I have a trans brother, and I've been deconstructing from the type of religion that taught me to be hateful and judgmental and calling it a sin. And I recently uploaded a video onto my channel called "The Bible, how the Bible isn't anti-LGBTQ," because I want to help teach other people that are considering themselves Christian, like, please, if I can change, you can change. Look at the facts.
Right.
Let people be who they say they are. Let people love who their heart wants to love.
Right. So I'm going to steer you. I probably have 5 different shows that deal with that subject. We've had clergy people on, okay, from Methodists, from the Catholic Church. All right. So this is something, and there's one Dr. Reverend Elizabeth Geist, who talks about, she analyzes the Bible and what the Bible really said. I can't wait for you to go to, it's Wendy Stuart TV. I want you to look at the show. Just go through, you can click on it. You'll see the ones that are about religion. You're going to be, I think we have 22 different episodes. There's probably 5 of them, Kate, that are on exactly what you just said. You're the reason I do this. I do this for your brother because we get the absolute truth out there. So yeah, great. I love coming on a show like this and finding that out.
Yeah. What I wanted to say something, it is, this situation sucks, but people like you and other resourceful people, they're doing this thing that David Hoffman talked about, make something good out of something bad.
I love it.
He lost so much of his life in a terrible fire 12-ish years ago, like decades and decades of film history, so much things. But he made this beautiful documentary about making art out of some of his favorite pieces that he salvaged from this fire, and it just resonates so deeply. Make something good out of something bad, and that's what we're doing. We're putting positivity and love out there, and so you are doing a great job.
Thank you, Kate. And so are you. By putting our voices on the airwaves all over the world, we can make a difference. And you turned me on to David Hoffman. As soon as I'm done here, before I go to do my interview on location, I'm interviewing an artist, Chris Tanner. Now, this guy does gorgeous, elaborate artwork with rhinestones and jewels. Everything he does is jewels boxes, jewels on the walls, right? I see him on Facebook. He's collecting driftwood in California. I'm like, what the hell is he going to do with all that driftwood? I love artists. And the next thing I know, all of a sudden, I'm having an exhibit. And I look at these works of art and they're just incredible. He's encrusted driftwood with like semi-precious stones. Right. You would never think like mixing the two mediums together. And I've so connected with you because what you just told me about David Hoffman, and he took what had been destroyed in a fire and assembled it into something else. He took a bad situation and made it into something good. And that's what people can do as artists. That's what people can do as human beings. We all have that power. We should never forget that. So I'm going to give all my handles right now. So Wendy Stuart, Stuart on Facebook. You're on Facebook?
Yeah.
Okay, make sure you send me a friend request. And for anyone that listens, Wendy Stuart, Stuart on Facebook. And then our films can be found on Visual Journeys, Our Stories. My Instagram is She's the Last Model Standing. Okay. My book also on Facebook. She's the last model standing. Then my piece de resistance is a ton of stuff on YouTube that I have a whole separate channel for this year. I've done so much work. So that channel it's crazy. It's called Wendy Stuart, Stuart TV. Please subscribe to my channel. All right. That will make me so happy.
Do it.
Thank you. And then I'm leaving something out. Oh my God, my website. My website is also called Wendy Stuart, Stuart TV. Yeah, I got, what did I tell someone? I got more handles than a dresser.
I love it. Well, thank you. And it's been so wonderful talking to you.
You are lovely. I love what you're doing. I love the island that you're broadcasting from. This is also wonderful. For me, it stands for everything that's bringing us together.
The way that I end my conversations is I give hugs.
Oh, virtual hug. I love that. Virtual hug to you too. Oh, and the way that I always end my podcast, I always take a picture. So say cheese. Hey, one more. One more. Cool. Let me make sure I got it. Oh, I love that. It's great.
What a lovely, lovely lady. Should definitely check out her book. I'm reading it on my Kindle right now, and wow, she's had such a fascinating life and so many modeling adventures. I can't wait to finish it. So yes, check out all the links below and connect with her for sure. Bye.